This was by far one of my best weeks ever trading in the stock market, and it's because of all of the dark pool prints we were seeing and also all of the options flow along with my technical analysis. I've been calling out during this period of consolidation up here that we were going to have most likely a downward move, whether we got up and we had a big fake out and then the move came after, or just happened right away, kind of like it did here. I've been preaching that we would have that downward move, and I also gave you guys all of these Amazon videos. I gave you an Amazon video, Microsoft video about it, an Apple entry that I've been talking about in the Discord about a short position, as well as AMD short position, all of it in here. I've been talking about this for the past week, and as you can see, this did end up coming to fruition for all of these names. So I'm going to explain a little bit of how I was able to do this if you guys missed that, and then also what I expect for this week, which is a very, very big week with option expiration. So there were many variables that helped me with my bias for this past week of it being red, and one of the variables was a lot of dark pool activity in not only SPY but also tech, such as Apple. We saw a lot in the Qs. We saw a ton in Microsoft, literally over 3 billion in only 3 days from that Friday, Monday, and Tuesday of this past week. And a lot of that was during a lot of this consolidation, during this time where we were consolidating for about like 2 weeks in the market. A lot of these stocks were pretty choppy as well, especially in tech, and there wasn't a clear direction at all. We were seeing a lot of these prints come in, just like this one, this $1.4 billion one, which we made a video on, as well as the $2.7 billion one, which is a signature print. And I use this as one of my many variables that I have when I take trades. And remember, it's not only dark pools that gave me the bias towards the downside. That's impossible to determine that just based on dark pools. It's all about using a ton of different variables, whether that be order flow up here in terms of put flow, call flow, dark pools, my technical analysis, which is my favorite one personally, and then also anything you have outside of that, whether that be models or your personal setups, and then incorporating that all together in conjunction to give you the best possible risk reward, and then you play with that. And you may not be able to get as many setups, but that's the most consistent way to trade. And if you want to be a trader, that's what you got to end up doing at the end of the day. It's all about all of these in conjunction with each other. So I just need to say that because a lot of people kind of look at dark pools, especially signature prints, and they're like, well, if signature prints are delayed by 24 hours and we don't know if it's a buy or sell, then it's useless data. I'm here to tell you that's definitely not the case, and it's not because I'm biased. That's because I literally use this data to determine this exact thing happening. As you can see here, I posted this on June 7th. I said this is the third day in a row where we've seen highly unusual dark pool activity in tech. These are always followed by a large move in the market soon after. Use price action to your benefit. That's key. I choose to be short because since I believe that we're selling before a big move down. However, always include good risk reward in your trade. So my thesis here was we were consolidating a lot, saw a lot of these dark pool prints, and we were in this diamond pattern that I have on here, which is the yellow, also below this this supply level that we had up here. Since we were not able to get a daily close above this yellow line as well as this supply zone, that's not a breakout yet. And as long as we don't break out, I can short with my 715 SPY puts, which we saw tons of them coming in just like this, millions that were coming in all past week. I can short with my risk being a close above this level, above the supply zone and above the diamond pattern that we have here. Since we never had that happen, I was able to hold it short, and then you can see right here this big 15-minute candle that we had that broke down and it continued down after that. And then the big one before the waterfall occurred was this last line, which I posted on Twitter and in Discord as we were hitting it. This was key right here because acted as support twice before, broke down here, and then the waterfall, just big sell-off end of day on Thursday, and then big gap down into the CPI report afterwards. So again, I'm using the put flow, I'm using the dark pool data, I'm using my technical analysis all together to determine what my trade setup will be and my bias. And my bias doesn't matter. My bias, I have seen, has been right more than wrong. It's never perfect, not even close to being perfect, but it's right more than wrong, and that's all that matters because that means money in the market. And that's, as long as you get a setup that works for you and you can understand, and that's what you have to go with. And as you can see here, this did end up working out really well. Was able to short all the way down, cut most of it before we had the CPI report because I wanted to make sure I took my profits, but we continued down afterwards. So this brings the question, what's going to happen this week? And my expectation is we actually fall a little bit more. However, I don't expect us to make a new low of the year, which would be about like 380. I don't expect that to happen yet. That will happen eventually later. This will not be the low of the year overall, in my opinion. However, I do expect us to get between this range that I have on here, whether it be 386 or 385, somewhere between this level based on prior supports. I would expect us to bottom at least before VIX OPX on Wednesday. So remember, we have a very, very big week. We have option expiration on Friday, which is a massive one. And then also we have a VIX option expiration on Wednesday. Now, the key thing with this, first off, I'm going to talk about the VIX OPX. The key thing with VIX OPX, look at these blue lines that I have, the vertical ones here. These are all of the VIX OPXs for this year of 2022. And what I've noticed is a lot of these, we actually made a meaningful bottom a few days before, whether that be February here, and then we went green after, whether that be over here in April. We made a bottom a few days before, went green. Same exact thing up here. We made a bottom a few days before in the May one, and then also went green before that line where we had the VIX option expiration. The only two different ones were over here, where we had a sell-off back in January, and then also in March. March was a very weird option expiration. Everyone was super bearish during that time, and then it just squeezed super big. I think it had something to do with the fact it was a quarterly, so that was a pretty big month in general. But for the most part, we actually see a bottom occur a few days prior to this VIX option expiration. So that brings us to the Wednesday that we have right here of this week. I personally believe we'll make a low on Monday. So does this have to be the case? No. Again, it's all up to probability. However, I personally will be loading during this range on Monday to see if we get that bottom before VIX option expiration on Wednesday. So possibly we get a bounce on Monday going into Tuesday. I would sell after that bounce. I'm not here to hold super long or marry a position. I'm here for good risk reward setups. My risk would be a daily close below this 385 level, and I would just look for a bounce. Whatever I get off of that bounce is what I get. Super small amount of risk. I'll be looking at the 15-minute and hourly chart to determine when I cut or if I have to stop out. And I can take that bounce up until Tuesday, maybe even Wednesday if I leave some runners. Now, that brings to question what's going to happen after Wednesday, because prior VIX option expirations, we actually had massive red days on the Thursday after that. So that's going to be interesting to look for as well. But that also depends on where we are on Wednesday, because if we're down here, we just consolidate around this level between like 385 and 390. I don't expect there to be a big sell-off the day after on Thursday. Now, if we bounce around this level on Monday, go all the way up and gap fill, lure in a ton of bulls, then there's a possibility we actually are really red on that Thursday and Friday of this week. So there's a lot of scenarios that have to play out. I will post a video on Wednesday, as always, with my technical analysis and thoughts for kind of like the middle of the week, and you can get a sense on that as well for later on. But as you know, these are my thoughts for this week, and this is kind of what I want to play in terms of a setup. Most of the short positions that I had, like Apple, Microsoft, all of that, I've completely cut out of. Amazon, all that stuff. So I was able to profit a lot last week. And again, I also have been humbled by the market in the past. I know not to be super confident after one of my best weeks. I need to kind of cut it back, especially when a lot of people are expecting a lot to happen this week because of OPX and VIX OPX. When a lot of people expect a lot to happen, tends to be not much that happens. And that's a key market kind of dynamic we've seen a lot. And the last thing I do want to talk about here is is the put flow we were seeing on Friday, and not only Friday, but all of last week. Super, super bearish, literally tens of millions worth of premium going into far out of the money strikes. Like this one right here, we saw 372 strike when it was at 390, and this was for 6 million. All of these were above the ask, so very likely they were bought. And what's interesting is these very large orders have been right most of the time during this correction. We've seen these coming in since literally beginning of April, maybe even late March. We've seen a lot of these coming in, especially as the market's been going up. And people were like, oh, this is just more fuel to the fire. But each time, they've just been profitable afterwards. So you do want to look at these, especially the highlighted ones that are coming in and hitting the tape, because they've been right a lot. Kind of make sure you're humbled if you're super bullish on your position and things are going up. That means the trend could change very soon. You need to be careful on that position. And right here, this was middle of the day on Friday. If we go down to where middle of the day on Friday was on the 15-minute chart, look at right here. We had green during this time. They were buying puts into the green, and look what happened end of day. Last 30 minutes, big sell-off, closed at the low of day. So they were able to make a profit on that. So Always be careful, especially if things are trending super far up and the flow and dark pool is starting to get very active. That's when you got to take that as a sign of warning at the very least. You don't have to take a trade. You could just take off your long position. That's the beauty of a platform like Cheddarflow. You don't have to trade based on the flow. You can use it whether you're a long-term investor or you're a trader, whether that be swing trade or day trade, and you can use it to kind of give you a sense on where the market can go within that near-term time period. But other than that, appreciate you guys watching this video. We'll be in the Discord this week to discuss more trade setups and the flow, and I'll see you guys in the next video on Wednesday.